had mobile phones. They took pictures of themselves. They had things to do, non-stop. This is the story of Don. Threat potential, high. Ethnicity, indistinct shades of non-white. Interests, grime music, karate, sweets. Sexuality, probable homosexual. Social conduct, unsocial. Familial connections, one brother, one mother, father, occasionally, but mostly not. It begins in Rochdale. Fucking Rochdale. A place that needed to be preserved and put on display in a museum as a warning about thoughtless development. A brass plaque. This is how people live in the new millennium if they are not suitable to market conditions. A catchment basin for the superfluous. A pool of non-genetically modified rejects. So, right, Rochdale. A shithole near Manchester, known for the consistency of its weather. Bad, that is. Rochdale, according to evaluations, had already been the most depressing city in the United Kingdom for 5 years running. A municipal embodiment of brain damage is definitely not conducive to consumption. So the city had found itself in a fight for its very existence. For decades. Like thousands of cities in the Western world that all resembled each other. Brick buildings, crumbling streets, and a derelict cinema. Shuttered post offices, shuttered supermarkets. Nobody needs those things anymore because it's the internet era. You can stream any film and buy all essential foodstuffs, meaning margarine and white bread, delivered in cardboard boxes. Though the residents might as well have sprinkled wallpaper with salt and devoured that. Among the relatively limited circle of objectophiles, Rochdale was known for its 7 social housing towers. Consequently, you'd see them creeping furtively around the towers, excitedly licking the peeling facades. There was always something happening at the Seven Sisters, which was the building's unofficial name. And it usually had to do with the demise of a resident. Don envied the people who got to live there. They had more interesting lives, more interesting than hers, which took place in a totally ordinary social housing complex a few minutes away. In the Seven Sisters, the drug trade was run on a grand scale. Family members killed each other, and time and again people jumped, or, let's say, slipped out of upper-story windows. Don had never seen a dead body at that point and was convinced that the sight of one would reveal a great secret. Perhaps it would open its eyes, the corpse, and in the manner of a helmet-haired BBC reporter ask, "So, just what is it like for a young person?" Pausing, considering the best way to phrase it, to grow up in this city. Don would act as if she were thinking the question over and then say, "You know, people all regard the life they know as normal. You just don't know anything else. I was born here and never questioned the city or its shabbiness. It's just the way it is, like the bad weather, like the boring school holidays. I never gave any thought to the fact that other places exist, or put it this way, I know that it's claimed online that other places supposedly exist." The corpse would persist. "Is your manner of speaking really appropriate for a child?" Before reverting to being dead again. Don was no longer an extension of her parents, but an autonomous person. She was no longer scared when her mother wasn't around, no longer searched her face for signs of trouble, no longer asked herself how she could please her mother. In short, Don no longer asked herself what she could do in order to finally feel loved. Don did better without this total emotional dependency. If she were older and more convinced of her own importance, she would have mumbled things like, "I'm perfectly capable of being on my own." But nobody asked her, because Don was so young that adults did not yet see her as a person, despite the fact that everything was already there. The feelings, the thoughts, the loneliness. There just weren't familiar compartments into which to sort the feelings. Don didn't regard the early years of her life as having been awful, maybe a little bleak.